This is Veronica Taylor, and I just wanted to say from myself and Ash Ketchum, Moonie Thoughts, I choose you!
Hey guys, welcome to Moonie Thoughts. I'm hellenjane and this is Katie.
Hi guys.
So, you told me that you want to say something quickly before we jump in.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to get right into episode discussion, but before we do, I had a small clarification to make at the special request of one of our listeners. She was wondering in the episode that introduces Rei, when Usagi uses the transformation pen to turn into a stewardess on the bus, she wanted to know more about why there are stewardesses on buses in Japan. And but it was brought up when we did our Japan culture episode. And the answer to that is because stewardesses on buses aren't a thing in Japan. There's actually a line where if you listen, it's really quick, so it's easy to miss, but there's a line right before they jump into the portal where Luna says, "Why did you change into a stewardess for a bus?" And Usagi says, "It's the first thing I thought of." So, to that listener, the reason why we didn't talk further about bus stewardesses in Japan is because there aren't actually any.
I hope that cleared any confusion, and thank you for asking this important question.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get into these two discussions, which is episode 24 and 25.
Alright, episode 24 mainly revolves around the Black Lady's attack on what's left of Earth at this point, and the revealing of who or what Wise Man has really become. The first thing I noticed for this episode was that they didn't have the usual little jingle for the title card. It just started right into this dark, intense music, and that's kind of like, yeah, we're getting to the serious part when they're just jumping right in like that.
I actually never noticed it. I just wanted to see the action.
Well, and they knew. That's why they just started that music right away.
Yes. It's like they knew exactly how tense it's going to be. So instead of playing like a nice gentle jingle.
Yeah, just that little flute that usually plays in the beginning. No, it's right into this like dark guitar.
Please keep that in if it's getting serious.
Yeah.
I actually feel really sorry for Luna P though.
Me too. I mean, I don't know if it has feelings, but when Black Lady swatted it away, I felt bad.
Yeah, because I know in the classic anime, Luna P was changed to a fan, and that was Black Lady's signature weapon.
Yeah. I'd actually entirely forgotten about that until right now when you mentioned it.
Yes, like in the 90s anime, Luna P turned evil.
Mm-hmm.
In the manga and Crystal, that didn't happen. So
No, in the manga and Crystal, she just kind of batted Luna P away, and it's like, oh, it was sad. Alright, and something we talked about last week, but Black Lady didn't learn her lesson. Stop kissing your dad. It's still gross.
I know, it's like
She was like getting really into it too, and I know at least part of it was to just really drive Usagi crazy, but at the same time, it's gross. Stop it, Black Lady. Stop that.
if I had the magic, I would have sent you to detention.
Exactly.
Not to your room, but into detention.
Yes. Now, after that, Sailor Moon, gives this revelation about how, oh, you're treating him like I tried to treat him, where you love him so much and you don't know what to do because you feel like you want him all to yourself. And Black Lady flips out and says, you don't know me, don't talk like you know me. And I kind of can't blame her because Usagi is saying, oh, I know what's happening, I'm so sorry. And I think, I know Usagi was being sincere, but given the mind state that Black Lady has, it would be really easy for that apology to come off as more of her saying sorry because now she's in trouble and she isn't actually sorry, she just doesn't want to get hurt. And so I can understand, even though she's like evil and stuff, I can understand why Black Lady wouldn't, automatically accept that apology.
And it will make you create another pillar.
Yeah.
Never took of Black Lady.
That's what, when she's not like being creepy with Mamoru, she's really impressively badass.
Totally.
I think she's even more. I guess it's because with moving animation, they can make things more dynamic. And her voice actress is doing an amazing job. I think she's more threatening in Crystal than she was in the manga. It's just kind of not making good choices all around because he gives this speech about how he hasn't actually been mind controlled this whole time and he's not going to die in vain when his comrades Rubius and Esmeralda were killed. And then he says, brother, you've always stood beside me, but you always showed that to some degree you were still your own person. Okay, sorry, and then he kills him. And it's like, Diamande, this is all a bit too late for these revelations.
Then he basically killed his brother, which I think he has no sympathy for his own flesh and blood.
Yeah. I mean, he says that, I'm sorry I have to do this. And I mean, I guess at that point there was really no rescuing Saphir to begin with. But it's still like, you couldn't have had this revelation before, or it didn't really take him very much time to just be like, bam, you're best now. Diamande makes questionable life choices.
Yeah.
Which Diamande then attacks Wise Man, and his cloak falls off, revealing that he's like this he's a zombie mummy, and you all know how I feel about that. And I would actually like to note that in the manga, when Diamande knocks his cloak off, what falls is just a skeleton. Just a bare, totally pick-dry skeleton. And they made it a zombie mummy in the show, where there had been no zombie mummy previously, and I don't appreciate that.
But every time I hear zombie mummy, I just snigger. Even though it's serious.
Well, I mean, the whole concept is kind of ridiculous, but I can't think of a better way to describe them. They're kind of mummy-ish, but also look kind of zombie-ish.
Yeah. But I totally agree with you. It's
I'm guessing the reason they made him, this kind of husk thing instead of the skeleton was because, given that, even we who love Sailor Moon Crystal deeply will admit they have a short animation budget and they don't always, they can't always make things perfect given the timeline they have. I think animating a skeleton would have taken a lot more time and resources than they probably had, whereas animating a body with like skin, even if it's all dry and stuff, is not as detailed, so that's probably why. But still. Also, can I just say that little baby Pluto in her flashbacks was adorable? With her giant garnet rod that was like 8 times bigger than her.
yeah, so cute.
And she even had her little tiny baby Sailor Fuku. It was so cute.
Yeah.
And then Queen Serenity is just there being like, okay, tiny precious baby, here's all these terrible rules that you can never break. And it's kind of like, poor kid. That's really, at such a young age, she already is being isolated and given these giant tasks. And Diana was also really, really cute, jumping in and saying, I'm really small and I don't have any powers, but I'll be the guardian. You go help your friends. And I love Diana. In most incarnations, I like her more than Chibiusa. I'm like, can Chibiusa just go and we'll keep Diana?
Yeah, it's like so cute, but yet so sad.
Exactly. Just, that she knows she's small. She can't really fight anything, but she wants Pluto to do what she needs to do, and I admired that about her. Something that kind of bugged me was that after Mamoru takes Usagi's silver crystal, which scandalized hellenjane. She was not happy. Usagi loses her Sailor Moon Fuku, which is understandable, but she changes back into her school uniform when what she was wearing before she transformed was just like some normal casual clothing. So she shouldn't have changed back into her school uniform. That's not what she was wearing. But that's what they did in the manga too, so.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about that love heart that was shown on Pluto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I know this is coming out in this month in August, but don't think that we're late knowing about the pictures of Pluto. Because
it's appropriate that Pluto has that little heart marking on it when in these episodes Pluto is really showing, acting on how much she cares about people and how much she wants to help.
And I think I saw a Tumblr post and it showed that it's nearly the exact same shape of the garnet orb.
Oh, well that's even cooler.
Yeah. It's really cool how it shows that even though Pluto is far away, she still does cares. I mean, she and the Chibimu, not Chibimu, that's a little later. Chibiusa, that Pluto lets her to come in and out, even though it get Chibiusa in trouble, but she doesn't really care because Pluto is her only friend. And that shows that no matter what, she does care for for Chibiusa.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of Moonies should find it appropriate that, it takes us so long to get a good picture of Pluto because it's so far away and so isolated. But when we finally see it, it's got this heart on it. And that's really a pretty good analogy to Sailor Pluto, is that she's been locked away, kept away from everyone for so long. But when you get to her, she's got this heart in her, and she really loves everyone she's taking care of.
And another picture showed an outline of the dog Pluto.
That too.
Anyway, back to the discussions. But I thought I'd bring that up since we're talking about Pluto, and I thought it would be a good time to bring up that what I found on Twitter. So
that brings us into episode 25, which is about now that Black Lady has gathered the crystals and Diamante stole them from her, Pluto is finally able to act. What?
And Creepy Prince has gone insane at this point.
Yeah, he's gonna kill everyone. Pluto, as her, first and only act as an actual member of the team of Senshi, stops time, which we get another flashback of Queen Serenity telling tiny baby Pluto that if she ever actually stops time, using the power required to do so will destroy her. So
the ultimate taboo.
So, of course, she's laying there, and her body is just, falling apart from the inside because of all this power she used. And everything she said just made me love her even more, because it was like, she spent her entire life isolated and had these jobs. She was told since she was really little that this is what you have to do, and you can't do any of these other things. And all we ever saw of her, she never complained about it. She never, when she was talking to Chibiusa, was like, oh, I wish I could go out there, blah, blah, blah. She knew what she had to do, and she did it. But, when she's already out and she's dying, and, this is her last chance, she finally can say how much she really wanted to be with the king and queen and all the people she'd been watching over, and that she'd come to love. And I just really love Pluto.
And I think for her to actually risk her life like that says something.
Oh, definitely.
And it goes back to that picture of Pluto, the recent picture of Pluto with the heart. She cares, and she's willing to lay down her life, commit the ultimate taboo, just to save both centuries. And all that jazz. It's like, wow, you don't see that connection until recently, but before that picture, that first picture came out, it's like you don't know why she really did it. It's because she cares.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things of being a senshi. You care for people, and you're willing to risk your life to save them.
After Pluto's moment, when Chibiusa is or at the time she's Black Lady is reflecting on what's happened to Pluto and her relationship with Pluto, I actually, in that moment, loved Chibiusa and what she was doing. And I have never in my life loved Chibiusa, but I did. which I think just shows how amazing Crystal is doing in terms of finally making her a character that is appealing and not just annoying like she was in the first anime, or just kind of there and I don't really care like she was in the manga. I am actively invested in Chibiusa. And her memories of Pluto and what she was saying, even though there were a lot of those scenes were directly from the manga, I don't know if it's seeing it animated or the little additions that they did do, but it's just, it was really powerful. And especially when she cries out to Pluto, and she transforms because she's finally able to break Wise Man's spell. I thought it was a very beautiful moment for her character.
It's one of those things that it shows that she's also has emotions. And in the first anime, you don't see that. You see like a jaunty little girl who wants to be better than anyone else and can annoy Yuzaki to the roof. In Crystal, however, you see a different side that you never seen before. I mean,
you see parts of her that you can actually understand. Oh, this is why people care about her and are willing to do all of this for her.
Yeah.
Like, this is why she's actually likable. Whereas really, in the first anime, there's very few parts like that. At least in my perspective.
I mean, she laughs. She smiles. She's able to make friends of her own. And you don't see that until Crystal. And this moment really, like mind-blowing.
And again, she has her friend in the manga, and a lot of her scenes are the same. It's just because they're able to expand just that little bit more in Crystal, and it's not quite as fast-paced as the manga, you just get more of a glimpse into her character, so she becomes more understandable, and her motivations are clearer, instead of her just being bratty and then nice, and then bratty and then nice for no apparent reason.
But that transformation, though.
Yeah, that was really cool.
The first 2D transformation, I might add.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering if that's her actual, transformation that we're going to keep seeing, or if that was a first-time only thing, and she'll get a quote-unquote real transformation later on.
Or have that transformation transferred to CGI. Because it's really, really epic.
It's really cool. I do have to say that the first shot of the ribbon wrapping around her foot and making the boot, where the camera is kind of panning around her foot while it's happening, her leg looks really broken. It looks like a limp spaghetti noodle. So I'm kind of hoping they fix that for the Blu-ray and in future plays of that animation.
What I thought is that she was, like, the ribbon came out, then kick!
Yeah.
It's like, before the rest, because it looks like she was kicking something.
Yeah.
But
I think it had something to do with the way that the camera was, like, spinning around her leg, combined with how she was moving her leg, but the way that it was animated, it just made it look like her leg was, like, limp and didn't have any bones in it, and it was just sort of flopping around.
Yeah.
I just hope they fix it. I liked when Wise Man is, being all cranky because Chibiusa broke his spell and is starting to attack everyone. And Sailor Moon holds up her rod to stop him, and then Tuxedo Mask comes over and also helps her power her attack, and he says, "I'm sorry," and she just kind of smiles and says, "You don't have to." I thought it was cute that they had that little moment of not necessarily Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Mask, but of Usagi and Mamoru, even though they're like being rained death upon by Wise Man.
Yeah. The thing that was actually confusing is that it didn't show Mamoru breaking from the spell as well.
It kind of did. It was when he was being freed from the time stop. It kind of showed him being like, "Oh, what's going on?" It was sort of more implied than outright stated, but that's where I got the impression. So everyone joins together to do this big powerful attack, but of course it doesn't actually work because we still have one more episode left. They can't kill Wise Man yet. So,
but Creepy Princess got killed in a really awful way.
When Wise Man comes back and attacks again, Diamande stops the attack and is basically protecting Sailor Moon and, to an extent, also Tuxedo Common and the Senshi, but mostly Sailor Moon. And I almost wondered for a bit, with what he was saying to Sapphire and the tiny little bit of introspection he was doing, was he going to have sort of a redemption like they did with the generals, where he, maybe he's not such a bad guy before he dies? But then it turns out, no, the only reason he's protecting Sailor Moon is because he wants to be the one to kill her. So, no, he's Creepy Prince till the very end when Wise Man smashes him.
Yeah. It's like, come on. You're lost.
Yeah, even in the manga at that point, he wants to kill everybody because he's just, crazy and is fed up with Wise Man and the Senshi and everyone. But at that point, he doesn't actually say anything about the fact that he's still fixated on Usagi and Neo Queen Serenity. That was something they added into the anime, which I guess to a point makes sense because he was really obsessed with her, so he probably still would carry some of that over after he goes even more crazy. But it was just sort of, I was thinking, oh, is he gonna, get a tiny bit of redemption here at the end? And then he's just like, no, I must be the one to kill her. And it's like, okay, never mind.
Oh dear. Things got from bad to worse after that.
They get sucked up into Nemesis as a whole, which is also Wise Man / Death Phantom. He's become one with Nemesis. And
hang on.
A line that... Oh, go ahead.
Hang on. Wise Man is Nemesis?
Yep.
I never got that.
Yeah.
Even in the manga, I still didn't get it. Why did he fuse with Nemesis?
Well, because his body was dying. He was, out in space, and he was already probably pretty old, so... But the power of his hatred and dark magic was so strong that he just sort of... His spirit entered the planet itself, because that's really all he had out there when his body died. But yeah, they said that in the manga. It's in there. A line he says, though, is that he's like a king of solitude. And I thought it was kind of cool because you always kind of wondered, what exactly is Diamande the prince of? Like, was he a prince somewhere before he left? Or was he a prince of Nemesis and he just declared himself that? But when Death Phantom says, I'm the king of solitude, I'm the king of this planet, then it's kind of like, oh, okay, so that's why Diamande is prince. And it makes it clarifies things. One last note to tie up the end of this episode is that Crystal made the ending of this act a bit more dramatic than it was in the manga, because in the manga, instead of Sailor Moon, Tuxedo Common, and all the Senshi, making this big first attack on Wise Man, as soon as Usagi retransforms into Sailor Moon, that's when Death Phantom absorbs them all into Nemesis, and they don't have a chance to attack him, and they never actually attack him directly. Once they're absorbed, Diamante is taken with him, and that's when he says, well, I'm still going to kill everybody, and I'm going to do it before you can. So Sailor Moon and Tuxedo Common together attack him with the Cutie Moon Rod, and that's what heals it, and that's how Diamante dies.
Yeah.
So in the manga, the Senshi never actually attack anything, and Wise Man / Death Phantom himself is never actually attacked in this act. I kind of like how Crystal did it more. It was, more dramatic, and it actually gave the Senshi something to do aside from stand around and either pass out or yell.
Or just being on their knees and watching the whole thing.
Yeah. That's something that happens it happened in the manga. It's happening in Crystal because Crystal is following the manga, and it happened in the first anime is when really big plot points like this come about, and it's really just focused on Sailor Moon, and there isn't really anything for the other Senshi to be doing, they tend to just sort of make the Senshi all pass out or get trapped and be drained of energy to the point where they can't do anything. And I always wished they were more useful in those situations. Because when that happens, it makes them seem like they're supposed to be Usagi's guardians. But anytime anything really bad happens, the first thing they do is pass out, and Sailor Moon has to take care of it herself. It just seems kind of counterproductive.
Yeah.
And I understand that, Sailor Moon is the title character, and it's supposed to be mostly about her and her power. But it's just when all of the really big threats come, the other Senshi are useless, and it makes you wonder why they're supposed to be her guardians when they can't do anything and she has to take care of all of it.
But I think in Crystal, they had the Senshis do more than than the other three adaptations, like the manga, the anime, the first anime, and the live action. Though they did have some episodes that focused on the Senshi, but always that Sailor Moon always comes at the right time. And let's go back to her. But in Crystal, there are some things that say, no, they're not sitting around doing nothing. They're doing this. That's it.
Yeah,
and it's
they seem to be given a bit more of an important role in fighting the big bads in Crystal. At least the few that we've seen so far.
Yeah. And I really hope that they continue with it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think for now that wraps up our episode discussion.
Mm-hmm. I so can't wait to see what episode 26 shows.
It's gonna be pretty epic.
Yeah. So,
what song do you have for us today for our first break?
For our first break, we're having another PGSM song called Romance.
Alright.
So, we better have our break. Then when we come back, we're going to explain how the next segment is going to work.
Look forward to it, guys, because it's pretty interesting.
Yep. See you soon.
We'll see you soon. Welcome back.
Yeah. Before we head off to the main topic for this podcast, there is about 3 things that you have to be aware of. 2 of them is related that why I'm not doing actually doing this particular interview for this topic. The first 2 points is that, again, I cannot stress enough that we are from 2 different time zones. This means that it was difficult for both Katie and myself to do the interview with this person. This is followed by the next point. Since Katie knows this person herself, it was easier for her to do the interview.
Right.
And don't you think it got off scot-free this time? We both worked on the questions together, so I did have some input myself.
Right. So I was just the one reading the questions off, but hellenjane and I both worked together and discussed what we wanted from this interview and the questions we wanted to ask. So she still very majorly contributed to the main segment.
So without further ado, let's get into our main topic. And this one hasn't been discussed a lot. It's one of those things that got pushed under the rug. And if you're a parent, I really urge you to listen to this topic. This is also something that does happen day to day. with depending where you're brought up and what background you have.
And I think this is a topic that anyone who is a fan of what's considered nerd culture in general could relate to. It's not specifically Sailor Moon. At least not parts of it.
Yeah. So, you're still probably wondering what it is. It's basically seeing a different point of view from the older generation. So, I hope you enjoy this interview.
I hope you do too. And we'll see you guys in a little bit.
Hi guys, this is Katie, and welcome to our first ever on-location Moonie Thoughts interview. This is a topic that I don't really hear discussed very often, and I think it'll be really interesting, and I really hope you guys listen and hear what our interviewee has to say, and, hear something that you really haven't thought about before. Now, I am here interviewing my godmother, who is a, standard all-American mom who has children who are interested in anime and manga. And we are going to ask her today is her thoughts on anime and manga and, nerd culture in general, especially Sailor Moon, and any sort of apprehensions or problems she has with it, and sort of give you guys an insight into what your own parents or general, older peers might think. Not older as in old, you know what I mean. But, if you've maybe had problems talking to your parents about what it is you're interested in and what exactly anime is, maybe get an insight into their side of things so you can have a conversation about it. So, if you would introduce yourself and how anime and nerd things play a part in your life, and your general history with anime and manga.
My name is Kathy, with a K. I'm 53 years old. I have been, and am proud to call myself a nerd, and have been my whole life. I've been reading, watching, and involved in the sci-fi, fantasy, role-playing, game-playing, wargaming, that kind of thing, since I was about 12. Very traditional. Let's see. My background includes Star Trek, and Lord of the Rings, and just your typical sci-fi fantasy stuff that most nerds know about, Doctor Who and all of that. The whole Japanese thing, though, kind of escapes me.
And you are introduced to that mainly through your children.
Yes, both of my children are heavily into anime, heavily into manga, and originally I just sort of took it as kind of goofy-looking cartoons, and I still think most of them are still goofy-looking cartoons. But I did notice that they really inspired devotion into them. It's not Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not traditional.
Right. hellenjane asks, she's my partner in this.
Oh, okay.
What are your earliest memories of cartoons that you liked as a child? What were your favorites? What are the theme songs that stick with you?
As cartoons as a child, I was always, even before sci-fi, I was into mystery. So Scooby-Doo, total Scooby-Doo fan. Total traditional Scooby-Doo. Although I have watched, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, What's New Scooby-Doo, and the movies are good, and a very Scooby-Doo. Warner Brothers in general, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Porky Pig. I'm not a big Foghorn Leghorn person, but what other cartoons did I well, of course, the Star Trek animated. I mean, come on, that's not even a cartoon, really. That's just sort of the show animated.
And
this includes Hong Kong Phooey.
This includes, like, as you got older, like, when you were in your 20s and stuff.
Oh, in my 20s? I don't remember watching a lot of cartoons in my early 20s.
If not cartoons, general kind of nerd things. That you were
nerd
into.
things. Oh, well, then I was, Star Trek, Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Wonder Woman. We were desperate in the 70s for stuff. Huge Batman fan. Traditional Batman, campy Batman, TV Batman, movie Batman, comic book Batman. Although, to be honest, I did not actually discover comic books until I was 18.
Mm-hmm.
I had done everything but that.
All right.
And I was introduced to comic books by my husband, and who was also part of the whole nerd group. All my friends are nerds. And so I discovered comic books, and I really loved comic books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't read them so much anymore, but at the time I really loved comic books. Micronauts and X-Men and New Mutants and things like that.
All right. So what kind, both when you were a child and as you grew up, what kind of fandom did you participate in? Like buying merchandise, you know, fan art or fan fiction, meeting the stars of whatever you were
I went to
in?
every Star Trek con I could. I went to all the full cons in Kansas City, KC cons. Those are local places. I also went to, this is not sci-fi related, but as far as fan related, I also went to a lot of Beatle Fest because I'm a huge Beatle fan. But it's not sci-fi related, unless you count the Yellow Submarine, which, by the way, is animated. So Yellow Submarine, put that in there too. Yellow Submarine, good stuff.
So did you ever participate in more like, at home stuff, like draw fan art, anything like that?
No, I have no talent when it comes to writing or drawing. I read it and appreciated it, and then of course with the internet, you get a lot of that. But I was never good at that.
All right.
I did read, well, that's not true. I did write, when I was about 12, I wrote several stories where I fell in love with Captain Kirk and he married me.
Those are still a very popular genre nowadays.
But most 12-year-olds did, so, but I didn't have to let anybody else read them, so.
Yeah, it was before the internet. And
yeah.
So you didn't get to unleash that upon anyone.
I did not unleash that on anyone but myself. So.
Helen Jane wants to know, what is your all-time favorite theme song from any cartoon?
My all-time favorite theme song from any cartoon. Well, it's got to be the Scooby-Doo one, or Speed Racer.
That's a good
Speed Racer. Speed Racer, go Speed Racer. Scooby-Doo, Speed Racer. I like Gigantor, although I can't remember all the lyrics. All I can remember is Gigantor. But probably Scooby-Doo.
All right. So, and you've told me stories about this before, but when you were more in fan involvement, a lot of it, it wasn't driven by big companies like the people who put on Comic-Con and stuff
when
like
I was
that.
growing up, there was no base for that. I think the Star Trek people started, the Star Trek fans kind of started that fan thing. When I grew up, there was nothing. There were no cons. There were no product placement in movies yet. There was no. I think Star Wars probably was one of the first ones that did that too, where you got merchandise with the movie. There were related books, related comic books, related magazines. Like all of that was brand new. When I was growing up, there was none of that.
And you as fans had to kind of organize everything yourself. You had to invite guests, and so in a way it was more work, but you got to be a bit more involved with what you were trying to do instead of just being attendees.
Right. And I worked at the full cons that we had here in Kansas City, so I run the art show, and that was a lot of fun. Working at con was a tremendous amount of fun.
That's cool. Because I would hear about that and how you would actually, stay in the same hotel with the actors and the writers and.
Yeah, I met Robert Bloch. He was a really cool writer. He's the guy that wrote Psycho, and he wrote an episode of Star Trek. And he was really nice. He was, I remember thinking how amazed I was that he was such a nice family man, and he wrote something like Psycho. But I guess you don't have to be, dark to write dark. So
there was Japanese influences coming over at that point in time. Things like Godzilla, Speed Racer, stuff like that. How much of that?
I remember the
consume?
Godzilla cartoon. Now that I think about it, I like that one too. I loved Speed Racer. I loved Gigantor, which was the robot that the boy flew on. The only thing I remember from them, I don't remember really understanding that they were Japanese. I didn't find out later until much later they were Japanese cartoons. The only thing I remember thinking, besides the fact I enjoyed them, was the fact that they were very fast-paced, and then the dubbing, I didn't realize then, but I realize now the dubbing was so strange because they talked so fast. The characters talk so fast.
Yeah.
And say so much in one sentence. That, that was, but I loved them. I enjoyed them. And they were hard to find. Especially when I was growing up. You'd have to find them on the UHF channel. Mm-hmm. That was it.
I know nowadays, at least, you like Godzilla and all the big kaiju.
Oh, yeah. Big monsters fighting. Awesome. Japanese monster movies. Awesome. Mm-hmm.
So that, when you're, at what point did you kind of, not fall away exactly, but did things like those animes that were being brought in, were you less exposed to them, like through the 80s with Voltron and stuff like that? Because you weren't really super aware of those, right. I don't think.
I didn't get into Voltron. You're right. I was going to college. Voltron, Transformers, things like that, I did not get into. I didn't think the animation was very good. And I didn't enjoy I thought the characterizations were kind of shallow. Mm-hmm. Now, there is one anime that I guess is anime now that I really enjoyed, really loved, and that was Robotech.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't realize that it was a Japanese thing. I thought it was an American thing.
Alright, through all of your fandom involvement, both, as a child, the shows you watched, and as you grew up, and into you started participating in all these conventions, what did your parents have to think both about what you were consuming and your involvement in it?
My parents thought I was frickin' nuts. My parents, especially my mother. My father kind of just rolled his eyes at me and kind of went, meh. But my mother was seriously afraid that I would be involved in some sort of Satan worship thing. Because I was, especially with the Mr. Spock and the whole ear thing, she was very much afraid that I was, involved in evil, dark things. And they still don't get it. I have very nice, loving parents and who have accepted that I'm obviously not a Satan worshiper, so things worked out okay. But they still don't get it. They're very mundane. They're very on that level, so they didn't get it. But yeah, I really struggled with that. I really argued with my mom, and especially as a young kid, and and it wasn't so much a mainstream thing. Nowadays being a nerd is practically mainstream almost. Yeah. And it's threatening. I think
it's a lot more well known.
Yeah, I think it was very threatening to her. I was talking about things and wanting to do things and going to cons and buying, Star Trek jewelry and stuff like that. And it was very strange to her. Very strange to her. She came along. She had come from the Hopalong Cassidy era where she understood cowboys and Indians, but if you wanted to play with a ray gun, that was didn't work. So.
Was there anything that you did specifically that you think helped alleviate those fears they had?
No.
Or did it just sort of gradually...
I just think she gradually... I just kept reassuring her that my faith in God was secure and I would not be a Satan worshiper. And I understood, that was very important to her, that I totally understood that this stuff was not real. I was not tripping into some sort of weird... I understood the difference between reality and fiction. That was very... Now why that would be something that she would be concerned about because it was sci-fi fantasy, and what if I had been like obsessed with cowboys and I thought I was Calamity Jane? Why was it? But I don't know. It was so totally out of her realm that she just couldn't deal with it.
So, with that being said, there's definitely some correlation, and this I think is true of any genre of anything, be it animation, movies, music, that the older generation just didn't understand.
Right. There's always going to be, even in nerddom, there is a generational difference. There's the old good nerd stuff, and there's now the new crappy nerd stuff. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
My stuff is good, and yours isn't. That's what it is. Okay.
With that, we are going to take a break. We will be back with Kathy's thoughts on, more specifically, modern anime and Sailor Moon. So you guys stay tuned, and we'll see you shortly.
So that is part 1 of the interview. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to play one of the one of the songs that was in a Moonie Thoughts quiz. Moonie Trivia Attack. Who do you think you are?
One of my personal favorites from the English dub.
It is actually quite a fun one too. So when we come back, we're going to get straight into part 2.
Alright. Enjoy, guys.
Tag along, but would you cry? You'd be a mess if we just
Alright, guys, we are back with Kathy, our interviewee, and we are going to get to the nitty-gritty and ask her about what she thinks about our modern anime, manga, and more specifically, Sailor Moon. So, what was your first exposure to, like, the kind of anime, manga, video games even, that your kids are into? Not the kind that you grew up with, like the Godzilla.
I would say it was when you guys were growing up, and I was the things you were watching, the things you wanted to watch. They started to see Sailor Moon stuff in the stores, and then the original cartoons you guys watched were the original run of them in America, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of edited and dubbed up, and
Yeah.
they weren't actually what you guys do now. The stuff there. That was my first, and then like you said, the Voltron and stuff like that. That was my first. My original thought was that, well, you know, all the jobs had gone to Japan because it was too expensive to make them here, and that was all I really thought about it. I didn't really understand that it was a whole new style.
Yeah, it
A
was
whole
a
new
genre of its own.
It was a genre. I just thought, well, okay, they're doing them in Japan now because it's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It was an American production but
Right.
done in Japan.
Right, that's what I thought.
So how is it most prevalent in your life now?
Oh, my Lord. Let's see. That's all my kids do is anime, manga, the video games based on it. Jonathan is total Yu-Gi-Oh!, total Pokemon, Pokemon cartoons, Pokemon cards, Pokemon video games, Pokemon 3DS. Christina, they have Japanese anime, these calendars and everything. It's just it's their number one interest.
Mm-hmm.
They do that. They do all the other nerd stuff too, but that's their number one.
Their
love.
main one.
Yeah. So I'm buying Pokemon calendars every Christmas.
What do you first remember hearing about Sailor Moon specifically? And what were your initial thoughts about it?
My initial thoughts were, when you kids were watching it, was that it was kind of a goofy cartoon. Why were the dresses so short? The characters, again, seemed a little bit two-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And the main character was just annoying. Just annoying. But you girls seem to love it, so I just thought it was one of those, like, it's like a Wonder Woman thing.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a girl superhero. There wasn't that many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
well, and Wonder Woman just wore a little underwear. So.
Yeah, well, her outfit was pretty revealing too.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I thought it was just sort of a girl superhero thing.
Exactly. And just for clarification, the first incarnation of Sailor Moon that Kathy saw was the original Deke American dub. That's what we watched as kids. What do you think about Sailor Moon now? Like, how have you been more exposed to it? I know as Christina has gotten more and more into it. What do you think about it now?
I still don't understand anime. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But I understand now that it's its own genre.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. I understand it's got like certain things that you're always going to find in anime and manga and probably the video games too. That, you know, the whole monster thing and the whole little Pokemon thing, pet thing, whatever the Pokemons are.
Mm-hmm.
And that was confusing to me too. Was that, is Pokemon a guy or the character, or is it the whole thing? It turns out it's that thing's, you know, or that thing's name is Kichu or Nikichu or something like that. And then, but the Pokemon is the things that they are, the race, and yeah. So, how have I gotten more exposed to it? Just by what they watch and what they do, and if I think about it now, you know, like I said, I just don't get it.
What do you? I know you don't exactly watch it religiously, but what do you think about Sailor Moon?
What do I think about Sailor Moon?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the whole Tuxedo Max thing is confusing to me. The plot line is confusing. You see, and that's the part that is always confusing to me with the anime. The plot lines are so... they're hard to follow for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's because I just don't get it, I'm not young enough, and I wish some of the characters are stronger, the women characters, and some aren't, and but I think Sailor Moon's, you know, pretty good. I mean, I think that there are some adult parts to it.
Yeah.
But I think on the whole, I have no issue with it. I think it's a good anime. I think it at least promotes strong role models for especially little girls. You know. And it's the hair. I don't like the hair. The hair is so weird in anime. It's like, that was my first thing, was like, what? The deal with the hair? The hair is different colors. The hair sticks up. It's just, I don't get it. And that was distracting to me. It was, you know, I couldn't concentrate on the story because I was spending so much time trying to figure out what the frick hair was.
I know, especially Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yes,
you had a lot of
Yu-Gi-Oh.
issues
I had
with
a lot
Yu-Gi-Oh.
of issues. I was like, I can't get past. And then the whole Yu-Gi-Oh thing, you know. What if he's a boy? He's a man. He's inside the boy. He's inside the man. The thing comes out. It was. I will say this, anime, even the stuff on Saturday mornings where they don't really have cartoons on Saturday mornings anymore, but you know what I mean, is really complicated storylines, which I guess implies that they really think that the kids are intelligent, because the cartoons I grew up with were like, okay, we're going to chase the ghost in the mansion, and it'll end up being the plumber, and, you know, and it wasn't that complicated. These are really complicated concepts.
I think some of that might be because most anime has an ongoing story instead of each episode kind of being its little own contained plot.
Right.
So if you come in the middle, or, you know, just towards the end, or you've missed something. So you're not going to understand everything.
Well, and it took me a long time to find out that not only the anime that you're watching, the Sailor Moon cartoons or Pokemon, or the things that are geared towards children, there's a whole genre out there of anime that is for adults, that like whole movies, like in all of these weird names like Cowboy Bleacher X or something.
Yeah.
And whole stories. Yeah. Yeah. That's.
We've already kind of touched on this, but is there anything that you particularly like or dislike about Sailor Moon?
About Sailor Moon. Like I said, I really like the fact that they were strong. They're strong models for girls, especially. I like the fact that she doesn't have a guy rescuer. In fact, doesn't she rescue?
She rescues him a lot.
She rescues him a lot.
He's the one who gets kidnapped all the time.
Yeah,
and she has to go
save
him.
I like the fact that they're the superheroes. I like the fact that it's a group of girls. My big issue with that cartoon in particular, that anime in particular, at least with the ones I'm familiar with. Now, see, I haven't watched the latest Sailor Moon, but like I said, the main character was just so annoying. She needs to grow up. She needs to seriously grow up.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people have issues with. Now I know, like you said, it's not exactly your cup of tea, but are you averse to it? Would you just avoid it entirely? Or if someone like Christina asked you, would you watch an episode?
Oh no, I would watch an episode if they wanted me to watch it with them. But like I said, it's the old nerd versus the new nerd. I don't have the patience to sit through the storyline and figure out what it is, especially when I'm distracted by the fact that the parents have turned into pigs, and the river comes up. You think it's the river spirit, and then there's like trash, and I get distracted by the little things, I guess, and
the cultural differences.
The cultural differences, yes. The cultural differences, yes. I really enjoy those movies that I've gone with you and Christina, like The Spirited Away, and I really enjoyed those. But yeah, the cultural differences, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Yeah.
Now, something that a lot of people comment on is the fact that, not even just in Japan, but even in more European nations, censorship, I can't talk. Censorship tends to be kind of reversed there, whereas in more what we consider to be adult situations in terms of, like, romantic encounters and stuff like that, are more accepted for children over there, whereas violence is more heavily censored.
Yeah, they censor violence and they don't censor the sex part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your opinion on that? And, because any kind of cartoon that gets brought in, a lot of times you'll see they'll cut out, even, if someone gets slapped in the face, they'll edit
I have
that
no
out.
issue with violence. In fact, I'm one of those people that was just horrifically disgusted how badly the Warner Brother cartoons were censored, because, they took out all the guns and they took out all the, children are smart enough to figure out that if Bugs Bunny is hitting Elmer Fudd with a bullet or something like that, and then he bounces right back or falls off the cliff or whatever happens, or the dynamite explodes, that it is a cartoon, that they come right back. There's a whole cartoon physics. In that world, you know, you can walk across the world and walk across air and not realize that you are until you look down. That's the way the physics of that world, and the children understand that. They don't need to be protected for that. So I don't have an issue with violence. Now, you know, do I think they need to be ultra violent and ultra gory? And then, no, I think if it promotes the story, then I have no problem with it. I guess I don't have a problem with it as long as it's not gratuitous and just for the sake of grossing people out.
Yeah.
You know, no. And as far as the sex part goes, I guess I'm more American than Europe that way. I think the sex part should be censored up to a point. I think it's okay to show it up to a point, but I think after that, then that doesn't need to be in a cart, especially for children.
Yeah.
You know. Now an adult one, you know, and it doesn't bother me either. Although on the other hand, how far are you going to animate that? How far are we going to draw that? You know, I don't want to watch anybody else do that. You know, I don't want to watch anybody do that. So, you know.
From what you know of the show or the manga, do you have a favorite Sailor Moon character?
Sailor Mars.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess it's for the same reason I initially liked her. It's because she's the red one.
That's right. It's my favorite color. It's red. And from the teensy bit I know, she seems like a good character, a strong character, and she seems to have more braids. I think that's the other thing that really bothers me about Sailor Moon. Not just, and I'm kind of ditzy myself too, so it's not that I don't believe that a ditzy person can be intelligent, because I know you can, but she doesn't seem to be that smart. She's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and I could never figure out, why is she in charge of the superhero team here? Why is she the big cheese when she's just not that smart?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get that.
And if you watch the American dub, yeah, that's really the impression you get.
Yeah.
So out of all of the anime, manga, video games, general Japanese, modern Japanese entertainment that you've been exposed to through all of this, what would you say is your favorite overall? Or one that you think, you know, is the one you'd be most likely to be interested in?
You mean now, or do you mean...
Now.
Now.
Yeah.
Now.
Like the stuff that your kids are into.
Oh, the stuff that my kids are in? I really don't care for Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't care for... But like I said, things like Robotech I would watch. That would be good. And I would like to watch the more adult animes. You know. Pokemon, again, with the hair, and I don't get, you know, and here's another thing. If all of these little animal things are so freaking powerful, then why are the only reason we're using them is for contests? These things should be like in armies or something. People should be like trying to take over the world with these freaking things, but they just run around and have tournaments. It's just weird. The more adult oriented storylines, and I guess I would have to say too, the storylines that are more not less cultural references, but more something that poor Americans can understand. You know,
something that, because you mentioned that the really big cultural differences distract you, so something that isn't so distracting, where you're too busy trying to figure out, is that a Japanese thing, and you can actually focus on the story.
Does that mean something in the storyline, or is that just window dressing? I never know.
Yeah.
I never know. You know.
So, but like you said, you liked Spirited Away. And
I did like Spirited Away.
Stuff like that.
And what was that movie, The Borrowers or something, that I took Jonathan
Oh,
to?
yeah, The Borrowers.
Yeah. That was okay. And, yeah. And well, I would go to see them just because they're beautiful. Like Howl's
Moving Castle.
They're just beautiful movies.
Yes.
They're like moving picture, you know, moving artwork.
Yeah.
You know. Even if I don't get the story, I can at least, you know, and that's what I did with Spirited Away. I just gave up on the story and just finally went, okay, whatever.
You just appreciated how beautiful the movie
I just kind of went, okay,
was.
and the woman's head is like 6 times her body, okay, whatever. And then the baby is huge, and then the parents are pigs. I just let the art flow over me and just watch the pretty pictures. That's what I did.
Alright. Well, lastly, what advice would you give to, teenagers or even people my age whose parents struggle with their involvement in anime or manga or fandom in general and are worried like your parents were that, this means they're like some sort of devil worshippers and are going to join a cult and kill everyone? What?
Okay, well, to other nerd parents, I would say, and they're probably okay with it because nerd parents tend to be, we know what this is. Like anything else, if you think your kid is way, way, way too involved in it, then you might want to step in a little bit there. But that's true of anything. They could be way, way, way too involved in soccer.
Yeah.
But I would say to people, especially to people who don't understand it, who are not nerds, I would say relax. It's okay. I would monitor it. Always make sure you understand what they're watching, and even if I don't like Yu-Gi-Oh, even if I think the hair is goofy, and even I have watched it, and I have watched Pokemon, and so just to make sure that there was nothing in there that was objectionable.
Yeah.
But I would tell them to just relax. Your children are not crazy. Your children are not strange. They're showing intelligence and creativity, and it may not be Bugs Bunny, but it has its own merits. I would just tell them to relax. Just relax and let the kids enjoy it. Don't freak out about it. Your kids are not going to be Satan worshippers. I turned out okay.
To just tell parents what you were talking about earlier with yours, that you understood the difference between fiction and reality.
Right.
And that even though you appreciated it and you enjoyed it and you liked expressing that enjoyment, it wasn't, you didn't prefer it to your life. It was a healthy enjoyment and not a obsession.
It's a healthy thing, and even going to cons and things like, and maybe the mundane parents who might be concerned that their kids are dressing up or making costumes or things like that. Those are all creative outlets, and those are all really good things. They're fun. It's just fun. It's just dress up. It's just a different kind of dress up. I mean, if you wore your mom's clothes and pretended to be the mom and had little dolls and stuff like that, then you were dressing up. This is just different kinds of dress up. And you'll be able to tell. I mean, you'll be able to, the unhealthy people out there, you'll be able to tell.
You'll know.
That's because I did the same thing. I had the Spock ears on it, and my mother freaked out. And yes, 99% of these kids are good kids, and they're going to understand the difference between reality and fiction. Okay? So... yeah, that's what I would tell them mostly. I would just tell them to relax, respect it, monitor it, make sure you know what's going on, but just relax and respect it.
All right. Well, that sounds very reasonable. That is all of the questions we had for you today. Thank you very much for agreeing to this interview. And to all of our listeners, we hoped that you got another perspective from the other side of people who might not necessarily understand modern-day anime and all of its trappings, but you can converse with people who might disagree with you and your interests and come to a middle ground so that if it's a problem in your life that your parents or other guardian or people in general don't understand your fandom, and regardless of what it is, anime, video games, Star Trek, whatever, you can see where they're coming from and also see how to tell them that it's really okay and sort of come to an understanding with each other.
It's just like baseball cards. It's just different.
Exactly. It's all the baseball card people are aliens. And
yes. It's just, that's all it is. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
It's just being a fan of anything. Like
that's right.
Sports, TV shows, whatever. It's only, it's
and it
more
shows
obscure.
they have passion.
Yeah.
And you want passionate people. Passionate people change the world. You want passionate people.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you. This has been most enjoyable. Thank you.
All right, and guys, I will talk to you in just a little bit. Do you have any closing statements?
Do I have any closing statements? I think my goddaughter's awesome. That's it. And the other closing, if anyone can write in or call in or whatever you do on this thing, explain the hair to me. That's what I really want to know. Explain the hair.
All right.
Do they use hairspray? Is it a gravity thing? I want to understand the hair.
All right. We'll see you later, guys. You want to give a sign off?
Bye.
Well, I hope you actually enjoyed this interview.
I know I had a lot of fun recording it, and Kathy had a lot of fun being interviewed, and she really hopes that you guys enjoy it and that it gave you a different perspective both on parental views of anime and manga and of the culture of fandoms before the advent of the internet and before what we're used to. I hope you guys found these things interesting.
Mm-hmm. And that leads us to the end of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Next week we're going back to how the original format was, so that means next week we have our usual merch of the podcast coming back.
Yep. And if I correctly recall, it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
You guys will want to stay tuned for that.
Yep. And this one's probably going to be a really fun one as well, so.
Alright. Even though we didn't have to do too much Sailor Moon research for this episode, we'd still like to extend our usual thanks to the Sailor Moon Wiki, Wikimoon, and to Moon Kitty. And another very special thanks to my Aunt Kathy. Thank you very much. I know you're going to listen to this because you've been so excited. Thank you for being interviewed. I had a really great time.
And of course, thanks to you guys.
Yes. Be sure to let us know what you think of this interview and if you maybe want to see us do more stuff like this in the future.
So, our next podcast, when this comes out in September, it will be on the 9th. And in the other side of the world, it will be the day before.
Mm-hmm.
So, in Katie's, so as a repeat, on my side of the world, it will be on the 9th of September.
Mm-hmm.
And on Katie's side, the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
So, until then, it's time for us to kick into Nintendo month. So, we will see you all throughout the month of August.
We hope you enjoy. We'll see you soon.
Bye!
Bye.
昼には